comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money.
Andy Borkowski and the VGS team here this week to bring you your weekly dialogue wheel with a little bit from the WWE. Let's hear it again. Let's just Corky, you're a fan, eh?
I am such
You're
a fan.
dancing right now.
I am dancing because it's so good. No, it's Shane McMahon. That makes sense.
Oh, with that stupid ass walk he has.
Welcome to our wrestling podcast. No, this week we thought it was appropriate to bring in this particular tune because we're discussing something that is tearing apart the video game community. Loot boxes. 2 words that shore up feelings of hate and pain in many a man and woman that have a controller in their hand. Basically how it works, when you're playing a game, you take the currency that you get either in the game or from your wallets, you press a little button, something rolls around, and you could get something very, very good for that game. It's a basic premise of loot boxes. Sounds a lot like gambling. Turns out it's not. The SRB just said today that it isn't. This is an issue, I think, that touches most people's lives that play gaming in some way. Personally, I wasted a good $70 to $80 trying to get a goddamn, like, Krogan metal face dude in Mass Effect Andromeda.
But how good did you feel when you got it?
I felt
Was it
really
worth that money?
No, it was the remorse I get when I go to a casino and put $100 on black and lose and then say, I'm never going to gamble again. It didn't give me what I wanted because that's an example, I think, of a very, very bad loot box. That's something that, doesn't work. The Mass Effect Andromeda.
I don't know. You might not got that. You didn't get that one thing you wanted, but you got how many other items at your disposal?
Ones that I couldn't use. I don't need more ammo for a sniper I don't use.
Not to use them.
All right.
You chose to
we know
limit
where
your
Matt
gaming.
stands here. We know where Matt stands here. But what about you guys? Have you ever been touched by the world of loot boxes? I needed to say that last part.
Oh, I bet you did.
Yeah.
When you were just explaining like what a loot box was, I was already getting excited in my seat.
I'm sorry? What was that?
Well, loot boxes get me. No, I'm just saying that, like, man, loot boxes are. It's like Christmas morning. It's like you go downstairs and like. You don't know what's going to be in that box.
We gotta take you away from your family if that's your Christmas.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, but like. Yeah, I say, Mom, I really want this one thing. I don't know if I'm going to get that one thing, but I'm going to get something, and it's exciting to not know what it is.
If you
get something.
That's a really interesting parallel. So if you ask your mom something for Christmas, I assume you're a child when you ask for this, and instead of getting that, you got like paper clips, like 13 paper clips, and she just said like, "Oh, I'm sorry, you rolled an 8. It's not going to work out." That's what this is.
Do
you then ask her again, like, "Sorry, you got to get me another present"?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. That's the whole.
That's what you ask your mom?
I'm like, well, I mean, I try and enjoy the paper clips in this like analogy
Poor
in this
mama.
example.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, that's the fun of it. That's the joy of loot boxes, not knowing the unknown. Like we did it way back in the day with like in the real with Pokemon cards. That was like the big thing.
The booster
is, like,
packs.
The booster packs. You buy them and you're going through them and like that joy of like opening that pack and scrolling through them and then that last one's gonna be a rare. You don't know what it is.
Where are those cards now though? That's what I asked.
I mean, hey man,
they're
on
with my
eBay,
sniper
I was
ammo.
going to say on eBay.
I'm just saying, there's value to those cards.
What have you spent your the most on loot boxes? Where have your loot box dollars gone?
Oh man, I would say in a combination of 3 games. I would say in order, I would say Hearthstone for sure, and loot boxes being card packs in that. Overwatch right now is like where a lot of my money's going, and then the other one is TF2. Team Fortress 2 was big in the sense like loot crates had hats and weapons that you couldn't get by any other means. You had to get them from these crates.
Yeah. So, like...
I'm glad you know what he's doing.
Yeah. Basically, I am totally not for this, even though I've spent some money on
Where have you spent the loot crate dollars?
I'm a big fan of sports games.
Sports balling.
Yeah, sports balling. And I spent some money on some NHL stuff to get the cards I want.
So do you get players in that case when you're doing... Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. So I got like... Oh, what's his name? Nicholas Lidstrom. I freaked out about that because he's really good.
How much money do you think you've spent on trying to get good old Nicky Linz?
Probably like, I don't know. I'm really cheap, so probably like $20.
Okay.
But like, I still don't like paying for a game. Like paying more for a game inside. Yeah.
So today on Dialogue Wheel, we've examined the news and tried to figure out exactly where we come in this crisis, where do we land, and we've decided that this week, right here, we are going to solve the loot box crisis. Matt, how do you solve the crisis?
Oh man, you got to follow a system that works. All right, you can't look your Mass Effect system like that's bullshit. That's terrible. Okay. I'm sorry that happened to you, and that's really.
I was trying to catch you off guard with this, but you have an answer. You know how it's going to be solved.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay, all right, I'm waiting.
So Overwatch system.
Along with the world.
Okay, the Overwatch system. Blizzard has figured their shit out. Not only with Overwatch, but even Hearthstone, and even to a point, WoW. I think that the fact that these loot crates come in at a very low cost, you can get them from in-game currency or your wallet, like you were saying. They have no effect on the outcome of a match. They're purely...
Okay, so let's explore that a little bit more. So when you say it can't have any effect on the outcome of a match, what does that mean?
That means that the items in there are purely aesthetic. That's what loot boxes were for a really long time. Now we're getting into kind of a zone that's a little different, and people are starting to freak out about that, which, like, I understand. But, like, a loot box is, in my mind, an aesthetic thing that, like, I don't need to have to beat you, but I'm going to look good when I beat you if I have it.
But Overwatch also, and Blizzard's model is interesting, too, because I believe with Overwatch and a lot of other products, they are offering when you paid the price point for the game, you're getting almost everything that's coming out subsequently.
Exactly. So that's a big part of their business model, is that with Overwatch, you buy the $70 game, you've got everything included. You are not paying for maps, extra DLC maps, characters, the lore. All of that is already paid for. You're never going to pay again. But, you give those little microtransactions to, like, help with the service fees, to help with, the fact that they're giving you all this. And I feel good giving to a developer team that not only listens to my needs, because they're constantly changing. They had a big loot box crisis themselves in their anniversary event, where the way the loot box system with them works is that if you have something already in your stash, you can get it again, and then you get, like, a small amount of currency for it. The thing is that there was no algorithm to a lot of people were getting duplicates and not getting the new items, and everyone was getting real pissed off because the anniversary event had the most stuff come out. And so
you're doing it so you could get those new items.
Exactly.
And it wasn't pinging like it should.
Exactly. So there was an outcry from the community saying, we're not getting the new items coming forth because we're getting a bunch of duplicates, and they fixed the algorithm. And that's listening.
That's a thumbs up for Activision Blizzard.
Yeah.
We have a few numbers for their revenue in the last year. How big of an impact are in-game sales for Activision and Blizzard? Excuse me.
Well, from just in-game content in the last year, they've made $3.6 billion just
with a B.
With a B. And that's just in-game. I mean, and that's, it's a system that works, and no one in this whole conversation of, what's going on with Shadow of War and Forza and,
Battlefront.
Yeah, Battlefront. Yeah. Blizzard is not coming up. That system is working, and either people are going, oh, we can try something different, or we don't want to copy them. I don't know what it is, or we just want to make more money. Whatever it is, it's not right.
Yeah.
And the community, if the community comes forward, I think we can figure it out together. And if we put our money where our mouths are, it's going to work out.
So, Corky, he said he feels good
Yeah.
supporting this. How does his good feelings affect your soul?
I don't. It burns. I'm jaded.
Okay.
It burns my soul.
All right, let's hear about your jaded soul.
Because I pay for a $70 to $100 game, and I want everything included.
Everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a classic gamer. I want everything included. I am that kind of, like, I like the DLCs. I will pay if it's a good game. But, like, I will not, like, Shadow of War, how you have to buy something, or the loot box, to make it through the game. That's ridiculous.
Well, the idea that it could help, right?
No, not only help, but the developers have gone on saying that, it's like playing it, instead of putting in difficulty modes, loot crates become your difficulty mode. So if you play it without loot crates, you can get through the entire game, you can get everything from the game, except it's going to be a little harder.
But there are some games that have not included loot crates, right? Or loot boxes, loot crates.
Yeah, well,
the loot crates you get.
Loot
one
crates,
thing. The loot boxes. But there are some, Adam, that have done a good job.
Yeah, like Zelda games.
Oh, yeah.
Have been perfect for that. Like the new Breath of the Wild, perfect for that. You don't spend any money.
Yeah.
Perfect. Same with Mario games. You spend no money. And speaking of sports games, of how much money I've wasted on sports games, the WWE games.
But almost every other sports game includes
Yeah.
Loot boxes.
Exactly.
Almost every other one.
Yeah, but you don't need them
Exactly.
to enjoy the game. There are certain parts of those. So like the, I think in a lot of those games are called HUT. It's an abbreviation for something I don't remember. But
It's a good thing you brought it up.
Right,
Yeah.
though?
Yeah.
Great. No, but no, that's just a section of the game. There's like, your Be a Legend. There's your, Play Now sections. There's storylines. That's just one part of the game that you kind of have to pay for if you want to be the best right away. But no, a lot of the games that have loot boxes, you're getting the full game. You're just maybe not at the pace that you want.
So, Adam,
Yeah.
he has his answer to solve
Yeah.
the loot box crisis.
Yeah.
The Blizzard, Activision Blizzard model that they're using, at least in Overwatch, seems to be working in Matt's mind.
Yeah.
What is your solution to this problem that I think is affecting a lot of gamers and game developers?
Yeah, it is. And I say get rid of them.
They're gone.
Just they're gone.
Take them out to the field, shotgun in
Yep,
the face.
just old Yeller. And, and
I don't have an old Yeller
I was
sound
about to
effect
say, you
there.
better play it.
oh
Yeah,
man,
I don't have that. Yeah, sorry.
broke my heart. But like, I just want them gone because I feel for, the average gamer who can't afford those boxes, who may look at Shadow of War and be like, oh, that's a cool game. I might pick that up.
Yeah.
And then see that this is a main news headline.
Yeah. I will say within Shadow War, I've had a chance to play through it, and you absolutely do not need them to beat the game, but they do quite entice you because it's a well-paced game, but it starts to really pick up in difficulty, I think, near the end of Act 1. And the loot boxes aren't just like, get these loot boxes, silver, platinums like that. Here is an Act 1 loot box that can help you. So it's very created to service a specific time and place. And I understand from a game development standpoint why you would add that.
Yeah.
But it makes it a very difficult process to, if you're a gamer, not feel compelled to just add a few more bucks.
When did gamers become like
Poor when games become $100.
not only
Exactly.
poor, but like, oh no, the game's a little harder. Oh man, I gotta put time into this. That's what games are. Like you
Yeah.
put time.
But
into
then why do you like loot boxes then? Because that's cutting down on
Yeah.
time.
No, but things that having the
kinda
option.
cheating.
Well, having but
You
having
cheater.
Okay,
Yeah.
whoa, guys, having the option to opt into that, and that's the wonderful world we live in, a world of options.
Who wouldn't want options?
And like it's not forcing you, and like people are like, oh well, it's a little harder. So it's this concept of not having that option in the world is silly to me because you don't have to pay for it.
So here's where I find myself in this issue. When we deal with loot boxes, it's kind of a fancy word for saying, or a fancy term that covers the psychological response of variable ratio schedule. Clearly, I'd say these words often. So it's the idea that you will get a reward that is not guaranteed based on some chance, some random number generation. I'm a bit sick, so excuse me. And that is compelling because that core system is in place for most games. The idea that a certain mob will act differently, the idea that this one jump won't happen exactly the same and is up for chance is why people really enjoy, especially classic platform gaming. But this model that has been brought in by casinos seems to be in place with loot boxes, even though it's not considered gambling. So the legalities of it are one thing, but it's the idea that the reason we like it, the reason, Matt, you're kind of compelled by it, is the fact that you can lose.
Yeah, well, with loot boxes that I can lose. Yeah, I mean, there's
That you're not going to get that great NHL player
Absolutely.
or that great mask you're looking like in Overwatch.
and that's great. The fact that there's something to strive for in that is great. And the one of those things where what's wonderful about not having something is and wanting it and this and that is that if I, let's say in a game like For Honor, where if somebody else has a better weapon than me and I take that person down, and I know that they bought that weapon and they got that from a loot box and I wanted it and I couldn't get it, but I still beat that person.
Oh man, I don't know what's going through your head with all that. That's strange.
No, I'm just saying that there's this wonderful
There's an
satisfaction.
edge and the competitiveness.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a satisfaction of beating somebody
Okay.
that has a thing I want.
Yeah.
It can only be achieved with loot boxes.
So before we dive until I say my answer to how to solve this, I think when it comes to multiplayer loot boxes, we have not necessarily a consensus, but an idea on one side that you really support the Overwatch model, quirky, get rid of them with multiplayer.
Yeah.
In single player experiences, Matt, where do you find yourself? Because I could think of some, and Shadow of War is a great example of this, some pretty compelling RPGs and action games that would be demonstrably worse if there was options for a player to spend more in-game money to change the pacing. Creating the pacing for these sort of games, these single-player experiences, is such a difficult thing to do, and adding in that variable of, here's some superpowers, here's some boosts in this way for your single-player experience. I understand your time may be more valuable than your money, but I think there is some evidence to suggest that would affect the experience, because this is, we don't forget, multiplayer is a competitive, community-based experience. Single-player games are a crafted experience. You're experiencing a story that you're interacting with, and when you use something to tip the scales, that seems like a pretty tough task to ensure the scales don't fall over. So where do you find yourself when it comes to single-player?
Well, it's a really weird, because this is new. This idea of loot boxes in single player, and it kind of tipping the scale, and I'm okay with it in the sense that if I want to get through a game quickly, I don't have a lot of time. I've got other responsibilities as an adult. I want to
allegedly.
Okay, well I'm sitting here with you guys, so there you go. I want to play this game. I want to be able to get to the end to talk about it with you guys or my friends or whatever. And if I don't have the time to put in, I want to maybe put my money in.
See, I'm the exact opposite.
He doesn't want to talk to us at all.
Exactly. I don't want to be here anyway. I love just going through a story and being lost for like 6 hours. I love just being...
At a time, not like time. In total.
No. At a time. But like... I just love being immersed in that and not taking a shortcut.
Yeah, but if the shortcut's all I have as an option to connect with you and the way that you just talked about it, should that not be an option? Should I not be able to
Would you entertain the idea that shortcut though will change the experience, so that comparing it between how you played Shadow of War versus how Corky played Shadow of War might be different enough that conversation about, oh man, that last act boss was so tough, I had to do this to get around. My answer was, oh yeah, no, I burned a spell slot. Yeah. And that's like, it's fine. This is all cultural arguments.
Yeah.
Like
that's how I enjoy a game compared to how you enjoy a game.
Yeah.
Like if my enjoyment's like I got to the end, sick. Like, and yours is I went through this 6-hour experience or like this 40-hour experience. For sure.
I think there is some tie-in to the idea that loot boxes are almost essential because of how broken video game economics are.
Yeah.
There's an indie developer that I've tried to talk to for a while. He's brilliant. His name is Rami Ishmael. And he went to Twitter a couple of days ago when everyone was spewing about this hate of how it's terrible, and said this pretty clearly: I don't like loot boxes, but nothing has made me like them more than the audience's slow realization that game developers do need income. So looking at the numbers a little bit, we think of a big AAA title like Mass Effect Andromeda, the game that I was upset about when this started. Right now, original price point here in Canada will be close to $90 after tax.
Yeah.
Right now on Steam, you can get it for $22 Canadian, I believe, or $27 at last check. And it's free with the EA Access.
That's so
thing.
ridiculous.
And that is, we're about 7 months after the release of one of the biggest flagship titles of series in this series, in video games, rather. Yeah. And I think something is wrong with the economics of gaming, where the value of a game that takes tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to create, can depreciate by almost 50%, more than 50% in this case, in half a year. When the needs of the development studio and the prices that they, the work they need to do doesn't end. We have changed the model now. It's not like before where people would do a grind for years and years. They leave their families, their life is ruined, but they made an Uncharted game. Yep. You look at the stories about Uncharted, the earlier ones. Yeah. It was hell for Naughty Dog and what happened there, but they created something great. With the addition of continued gameplay, post-release, and patchwork and DLC and the expectation of players, there is a need now for game development studios to almost never end. If you have a new franchise and it's a big one, they're making a new Horizon Zero Dawn DLC that's coming out in a little while. That is one of the best single-player experiences I've had this year, and they haven't stopped working. It's still going to be paid for. You're still spending money.
Yeah.
I think the answer, truly, to getting rid of loot boxes, because you can still have this, but maybe don't have money with it. You know, if you still want the excitement, that can still be there. It can be something internal within the game that has nothing to do with money. If you still want to, you know, feed the dragon a little bit.
Sure.
My answer, though, is the idea that these games for 2 years would be the original price point, that we don't have the depreciation, and that $90 will eliminate the need for paid DLC. And then it will allow these developers to keep getting the revenues they need while giving the players a chance to it almost values our games a little bit more.
Yeah.
That would be a wonderful world we could all live in.
All right, I'll make it happen.
Like, but that's not the world. Our news cycle is a great example of, like, things go and come so quickly that no one's going to want a game at full price. 6 months to a year down the line, there's going to be.
Well, we say that now because it's not something that's available. But if it's something like Breath of the Wild, where if all the DLC is included and there's a long-term plan, I think there's two different models when it comes to making games. They're the AAA model and the more indie and crowdsource model. For the AAA model to succeed in this day and age, I think it needs to get away from commodifying little pieces and give it the value that this is. This is a work of art that took hundreds of people to make. Mass Effect is a bad game. It should not cost $27 right now.
It shouldn't.
I agree with you. It's just, I don't think that, even though I agree with everything you just said, I don't think we live in a world where that will ever be a case. It sucks to say, but I don't think that
the one place this could happen is with Battlefront 2. Battlefront 2 is coming up very soon. We just had the beta coming up. And EA actually had some statements, right? Because there's some loot box crisis themselves. So what's the situation?
So the big loot box thing with Battlefront, for those who might have just missed the boat slightly, is that they are introducing a loot box system where the randomized things in these loot boxes are insane. Like examples of things that you can find in these loot boxes are, Boba Fett can have an upgrade that reduces his damage taken by rockets by 100%.
Oh, wow.
Like things that make the game completely unbalanced. And the issue here is that it doesn't matter how good at the game you are. If, Blowjo opens a crate and, gets one of these things.
Blowjo.
Right? It's going to be an issue with balancing for the game. Now, what's great about EA, they've actually listened. They've heard the outcry of the community, and they've issued a response in the last couple hours, and they're looking to change things.
Now, in that response, I want you to read some of this, Matt, because I did think the hilarious thing they said, where is the line here, right? I should have had it ready. The idea that we are helping them make it better.
You're making Star Wars Battlefront 2 better.
Yes.
They are so afraid.
Of course they're
EA
afraid.
is terrified of us after what happened with Mass Effect and just already now saying, like, please, no, it'll be better, please.
Yeah.
I mean,
So what are they doing? What are they doing with loot boxes
So
now?
things like, crates are going to have, a mix of things in them, everything from aesthetics to, your victory poses, star cards. But what they're really doing is they're making sure that the highest value or the strongest weapons will be found in-game. Everyone will have access to them. I think is really important there. That's a big balance thing. The other thing they've been listening is the community had this outrage for at least a mode that everyone was on the same playing field. That wasn't included with the beta. That wasn't even talked about, really. And now they're kind of looking into maybe like, okay, if you guys want to set up where everyone starts at the same playing field, we can give you that. And now you have, again, options. The spice of life of being you can use your setup that you've grinded or bought in one play setting, or go into this everyone's at the same playing field, and it depends on your skill in the game. I think that's a lovely way of Battlefront taking a step
Is
back.
that the Overwatch model, though? Like, how do we... we're using Battlefront 2 as a litmus test because it's one of the biggest games of the year coming out, and it already has controversy with loot boxes. What happens with this game, I think, will set the standard for the next several years of what games will do.
Oh, yeah,
So
totally.
what is the answer? We know what they're doing so far in terms of aesthetic things, not huge... amazing weaponry, the Boba Fett Ultra Killer. What can they do now to solve the loot box crisis so that next year they aren't the poster child for another culturally upsetting thing in the video game industry.
I think they've taken their first step in it already, is
Yeah.
listen to their community. Because at the end of the day, like it said in the beginning there, you're helping us make this game. They're scared shitless of their community, and they should be, so they're listening. That's a huge thing that the Blizzard Overwatch community has down. Jeff Kaplan, the head developer of Overwatch, does with these wonderful videos on every update and explains what's going on behind the scenes to make you know that he's listening to the community. So that's a huge step, is listening to your community. The second thing is looking at balance in a game. So they're taking the right steps. And I think the big thing is listen to your community, and at the end of the day, we're going to talk with our wallets, and if this doesn't work, it's going to be because we decided it doesn't work. What
do you think, Corky? With Battlefront 2, what should they do? This is the litmus test. This will decide what should they do.
Yeah, they're in the right mindset, but like, I don't know. It's still, I really like the mode where, you know, they're all at the same level, kind of level playing field. That's good. So they're not like a level whatever 10 is not, you know, killing you if you suck, right? Yeah. So like, I really like that, but still I don't know. It just rubbed me the wrong way that they're, you know, you're making Star Wars better, you know.
So how do we solve it? What's the solution with loot boxes?
Get rid of them.
Get rid of them.
Still get rid of them.
So just gone from Battlefront 2.
Yep.
Okay. I think finally, for me, I want this game to cost $90, have all free DLC, and not depreciate in price for the next year. I don't want it on EA Access like Battlefront 1. I want this to be a valued game that people will keep paying money for, so that the studios behind it will keep building content. Where do you fall on this issue? Do the idea of loot boxes really excite you? Like Matt, you want to chase that dragon? You think it's important to have options? Are you a more classic gamer like Corky? Do you really think that these are ruining the experience? Or are you correct, like Andy, and believe that it's all about changing the economic conversation? Please, in the comments below, comment either Matt, Corky, or Andy to see who you agree with. And of course, if you disagree with all of us, leave a racial epithet, and I'll make sure to get that to where it needs to be. Keep watching, keep listening. This is your dialogue wheel for this week on VGS.
Without a doubt, the worst episode ever. Rest assured that I was on the internet within minutes, registering my disgust throughout the world.